Hey folks, today I want to offer an introduction to Discord as a tool for synchronous online teaching. And I want to start off by talking a little bit about what makes Discord so cool for this purpose. If you've seen the introduction to this series, you've seen an example of me using Discord in action, at least to some extent, but I haven't really shown you what it looks like. So today I'm going to show you what it looks like, how it works, and why it works so well for the purposes that I'm using it for. Okay, so in my class for the Writing Center tutors, or in this Discord rather, we have a class voice channel set up, which is this class for the Mic-list channel. And we also have a voice and video chat channel set up. And this is how we conduct our synchronous classes. And you're looking at this channel right now. You can see that I have it selected. And right now I have two of our staff members and one of our tutors who are going to demonstrate sort of how our class works for us. So you'll notice here if I click on class meetings, I can switch over to a full gallery view where we can see everybody. So everybody who has their camera on, just like in a Zoom chat. But if I look at a text channel, I see what's going on in that text channel. And I still have a speaker view basically up here. Just like with Zoom, people can mute themselves individually. We actually have a little bit more freedom than with Zoom, because if I decided, for example, that I didn't want Erin to be able to talk, I can mute or disable her video on the server side. I can also prevent her, if I wanted to for some reason, from hearing what people were saying using the server deafen command. But what I love about Discord for synchronous class sessions is that it allows people to interact in a bunch of different ways. So we have people on audio, we have people on video, and we have people who just want to type in the chat, and all of those things can work. So I'm going to ask, just sort of open it up to you guys. How has Discord as a class system worked for you guys in English 123 or 124, or whichever class you're in?
The chat is way more interactive, I think, at least. And then I think aesthetically, it's much more engaging than chat, because chat is just Zoom is just the chat box, right? There's nothing really else going on. Whereas with Discord, you can go to the conversation, just seems to flow better, I think, on Discord than it does on Zoom or in the Zoom chat. But I mean, that's just, I'm not, again, I'm new to Discord, but I can definitely see where it has its benefits in terms of engaging students in the class.
Yeah, and I think Stacy's point is really interesting, because the fact that this exists even after our meeting is over, I think, is great. It makes it easier to go back and look at things that happened in the conversation previously. And it's really easy to kind of go back and forth between synchronous and asynchronous, which is different from Zoom, right? Zoom, like, once the meeting is over, it's over. We may have saved the chat or we may not have saved the chat, but we can't really keep interacting with it, which is a thing that we can do on Discord. Yeah, so thanks, Ariana. The idea that we can all sort of interact with this in different ways is one of the things that I love about it too. One of our tutors, for example, really does not like the sound of their own voice. And so asking that person to be on voice chat or video is something that they're really uncomfortable with. But when we have the text chat open, and not just open, like there's a text chat in Zoom too, but this is sort of on the same level and interacting with in a way that I think that Zoom doesn't. And so for a student who doesn't have audio access, or maybe who's in a crowded place, or who doesn't want to turn on their camera, that student is actually going to still be able to sort of interact on the same level, because all, like, text, audio, and video are sort of all on the same tier. Another thing that you can do is when you go back to the class meetings voice channel, there's a little pop-out button here. And if I click that, it's going to give me the full chat window, and I can pin that to be on top of other Discord windows. So now I can have, if you have a whole bunch of people who are involved, I can have that gallery view up, I can see everybody at the same time, and I can still see and interact with what's going on in chat here. Ariana, Erin, are there other things that you, and especially Ariana, like as a student, do you feel like this works better for you than Zoom does? Do you feel like you engage differently? Is this more familiar with you? Are you a Discord person outside of class? While we wait here, this is a small thing, but I also really appreciate that it tells me that Ariana is typing because that lets me know that somebody is trying to participate via text. And if I've asked a question, I'm waiting for an answer. Somebody who's trying to type in the chat in Zoom, we have no way of knowing that that's happening. So it does create some odd little pauses right now because everybody types at different speeds. But I love knowing that, hey, a student is trying to participate in this conversation. Let's maybe give them a chance to type out their response. While she's typing, I'll point out another couple of small features that I really like about Discord. Zoom has some similar things sort of in broad strokes, but you can be really specific with reactions in Discord. So you'll notice Ariana said, hi, I reacted by waving. And all you have to do is click on this little smiley face with the plus to add an emoji reaction. And some of them are really cool. The servers, you can set different reactions for different servers. And if you, it's possible, for example, I haven't done this, but it would be possible to have a whole bunch of different kinds of reactions that you set up on your own class Discord server for things like participation, right? If somebody makes a comment that is particularly helpful to a student reacting in a certain way, you might decide to give that extra credit points. Stacy just added a little animated waving guy. Ariana's high. You can post GIFs, as you can see. You can post images. There's a little plus button here that allows you to upload any file up to, I think, 5 megabytes. So it's easy to share documents. Awesome, Ariana. Thank you. And I would also say, speaking as a nerd here, the nice thing about Discord is that nerds love Discord. Discord started out as a tool that was primarily made for gamers, just like a lot of the stuff that I've talked about in this series. But part of what that means is that while there are a lot of students like Ariana who had never heard of Discord before they started, typically when I start a new class and a new server on Discord, at least 3 or 4 of my students know Discord way better than I do. Because for a lot of our students, this is a really common way of interacting with their friends. Many of our students, like me, you can see over on the left, I have sort of a big list of different servers. And that's pretty common too. So for a lot of our students, this is a very familiar way of communicating, even if Zoom has sort of become familiar to all of us in the last year or so. There are people who have, spent their social lives on Discord for a lot longer than that. Stacy, if you don't mind, will you be willing to share your screen with us and demonstrate maybe some of the cool stuff that you've set up for community building on this server? Like some of our games things, for example.
Okay.
So I'm going to
So
interrupt
this,
Stacy before you start showing
yeah.
off and point out what our students will see when we share a screen, which is that Stacy now has a little live icon right next to her name here. And if I double click on her, it will get me her screen.
Okay. Let me see how I can. There we go. So I have set up a lot of different channels for our tutors to be able to express themselves and talk with each other. We have a general chat area. That's just where we have all of our regular messages. A definite super secret channel that Josh doesn't know about. We have areas for like great sessions where we can talk about sessions that have gone really well, and we can all celebrate when we have great sessions. We have tough sessions. We have an area to talk about reading. So these are kind of like the general areas for where things that kind of have to do with class, or like class and just the writing center in general. The class combos are for the actual class. You'll see Josh has 4 different English classes here, and then we have our class meeting for voice chat and video chat. We have some fun stuff just to like help us all still feel like we're together even when we're apart. So we have like a 1-word check-in where we can all talk about like 1 word how we're feeling, and then we react to it. We have a memes channel, arts and crafts, because a lot of our tutors are amazing artists, so they can share some of the stuff that they do in their personal time. We have a birthday channel, we can celebrate birthdays. We have games that we can play together, trivia, word bot that actually broke on us, so kind of sad.
Which is why we also have
complaining
a complaining
word-
about word bot channel.
I wonder who made that. We have voice channels just in case like our tutors, like when it's not class time, if our tutors just want to get together and chat together, they can get in there and they can talk in there. We also have an area for sharing music with each other. So if we go to like music commands, we can take a look. We have a bot that we brought into our Discord that we can use, and we can play music from YouTube or Spotify. And if you join that vibing voice channel, you can all sit in there with mics off and just listen to music together and share some of your favorite artists. So those are most of the things that we added in for fun. We obviously have more stuff at the top, stuff for clocking in, where our tutors can let us know if they're ready and active or not. We have important things, obviously, way up at the top, where they can read daily or be fired. Resources for our writing center staff. So we just have lots of different channels. And what's nice about the channels is that you're not clogging up one channel with tons of information that's going to get lost. Like having all these separate channels helps us to be able to find things that we're looking for quickly. And then we also have pins in these channels. So if we go to, let's say, I think maybe, I don't know if we have any pins in general chat, but you can pin specific messages that are very important. So we do have a few pinned messages in here. That's just super important information that we want everybody to be able to see. We can add tons of pins, as many as you want. I'm sure there's a limit. I haven't reached it yet. And you can also delete them whenever you're done with them if they are obsolete.
So just to provide a quick recap of what you saw in that chat session, one of the things that people love about Discord, myself included, is that it allows multiple ways of communication. Voice chat, video chat, and text chat are all on the same level in Discord. And the text chat especially is a much more rich experience than it is with Zoom. Lots of different ways to interact with it, and it allows for lots of different ways for people to communicate who have different levels of comfort or who have different technological access. I also love that Discord works for both synchronous and asynchronous teaching. Synchronous classes aren't synchronous all the time. We may have synchronous class meetings, but our students are still going to be learning and interacting with each other and doing assignments and being a part of the class even outside of those synchronous sessions. And I love about Discord the fact that those conversations still exist, as Stacy mentioned in that chat session. Those conversations still exist outside of our synchronous meetings. And students can still interact with each other informally, casually, and asynchronously. Let me show you an example from one of my own classes. The Writing Center tutors are a complicated lot. There are 4 different classes that all work together and interact together, and each class has its own channel on our class Discord. And you can see in the 124 channel, you can see a conversation that happened a couple weeks ago while we were in class. I split them up into small groups and had them discuss in their own class channels something that we had read together. After that conversation happened, a question about one of the projects came up, and one of my tutors asked in Discord their question. Somebody echoed it, and then I was able to answer it. This happened asynchronously after class had ended. Other times we'll have asynchronous discussions that get more in depth, but the fact that this is both a synchronous and asynchronous space is one of the things that I really love about Discord. As Stacy mentioned in the chat, there's also ways to create different spaces that are focused on different things. Here in the Writing Center Discord, because again, we're working with our tutors, we have our general chat channel, but we also have channels for great sessions and tough sessions when tutors have worked with students and had difficult experiences. These are almost exclusively interacted with asynchronously. Students have things that come up in a session, they post them in these channels, and then sometimes they'll have a conversation right away. Sometimes they won't get a response for a little while. But people can respond exactly when they're able to. Stacy also pointed out some of the fun channels, things like listening to music, playing games that can create a community space in a classroom setting. Even as we are speaking, you saw another benefit of Discord, which is that it makes it really easy to gain access to people. Because you may have noticed in the top left of my screen, I just got a message from one of my students even as I'm recording. And it's really easy for me then to respond to that student. Creates another vehicle for communication between teacher and student that is within the classroom space, but also private. I can also use that message that he just sent me to set up individual voice calls or individual video calls, which is how I'm handling student conferences this semester. Another thing that I love about Discord is that it makes it really easy to create low-stakes collaboration spaces. And in my English 1 classes Discord, I have multiple servers because I am teaching multiple kinds of classes. I've created a whole bunch of different groups that have, each group has both text and voice chats. I don't usually pop into those, which is why some of those have unread messages in my notifications, because those are student collaboration spaces. And I sometimes will use them on the fly in the middle of a synchronous session. I'll divide people up into groups and sort of send them to their different spaces. Other times I'll have more intentional group organization. So for example, with their first writing project, I had students broken up into groups that they worked with throughout the whole project. But channels are easy to make, they're easy to organize. In a little while, we'll talk about some ways that we can restrict access to channels to certain people or certain groups of people, depending on their roles in the server. But it's really easy to do that on the fly as you need it. So those are some of the reasons that I think Discord is just a fantastic tool for synchronous online instruction. So let's talk a little bit about how to do it, how to get Discord, how to get it set up, and what you can do with it. So let's talk about how to get Discord. It's free, it's cross-platform, and it even works in your browser. It also has mobile apps for pretty much every platform, so it's really accessible to students. The easiest way to get it is to go to discord.com. And there will be a download link for your computer, or you can simply go to Open Discord in your browser, and it'll automatically get you started. If you haven't logged in, it'll ask you to register an account. If you already have an account, if you have it set up on your phone, for example, you can just scan this QR code in the Discord app and it'll automatically log you in, which means it's even easy for students if they're using, for example, a library computer. If they have it set up on their phone, they can log in and interact with the class from the library, from any computer, just by scanning this QR code. I'll assume that you know how to get an account set up. The questions are pretty simple. Once you found your way into Discord, if you're a new user, you won't have a whole bunch of servers and server folders here. Probably all you'll have is this little plus and this little web icon. If you click on the plus, it'll add a server for you. We can create our own server. It's just going to be for us and our friends, or in this case, our students. Give it a name, click create. And that's really all there is to it. What you have now is a blank template where you can kind of make whatever you want. So what do we do with this? Well, the first thing that we need to do is get people into our server. So as long as it's a server that you created, which we just did, you'll see a link here that says invite your friends. There's also, if you go to the drop-down menu here, you can click on invite people. Discord's being helpful for me here because it knows that I'm recording, so it's hiding the invite link from you guys. But usually what you would see right here is a link that you could just send anybody. It'll be a discord.gg link. You can send anybody that link, they click on it, and they'll be able to add your server. Underneath, there's a little button that says edit invite link, and you can set rules for this. So for example, I have on my syllabus an invitation to my server that I have set to never expire and to allow infinite uses. When you click generate a new link, it will put a new link there, and you can put that on your syllabus, you can put that on your Canvas, and because of the way the invite is set up, it'll allow anyone to join using that invitation. The next concept that I want to introduce is roles. Roles have two functions. First, they allow us to set permissions for different groups of people or different users. If we want to control who has access to which channels, for example, roles are the way that we can do that, or the easiest way to do that, I should say. And I'll show you why you might want to do that in a moment. The second functions that roles serve is that they allow us to address different groups of students depending on their role. So let me give you a couple of examples. Roles can be whatever you want them to be. There's no set restriction on the names of roles or how they work or what they can do. You can set them up however you want. So here on the Writing Center server, we have a whole bunch of self-assigned roles or React roles set up that allow tutors to decide what roles they want to have applied to them. These are mostly social roles, and having them assigned in the way that I'm about to show you requires the use of a bot, which is a little bit beyond the scope of this tutorial, but it can show you how roles work. So for example, one common use of roles is to have students include their pronouns in their profiles. So in this case, if I click on the 2 here, that will set my pronouns as he, him. Part of what that means is if people click on me, they'll see that my pronouns are listed as he, him on my profile. So for students who don't know each other very well yet, that's a really easy way to communicate their pronouns. We also have personality traits. This is just a way to sort of add flavor to their profiles so that people can learn a little bit about them. And there have been times when I've wanted to talk to some of the artists in the Writing Center, where I've wanted to commission some art, for example. And so I've been able to use that role to address people who have identified themselves as artists. I'm going to react here to the vibing role, which what that does is that if somebody's listening to music, it means that I'll get messaged and say, hey, somebody's listening to music on this server. Do you want to come hang out and listen to music with them? It's a really cool, simple social interaction that doesn't have to be classroom driven, doesn't have to be teacher driven, but it's a thing that you can set up just by having some of these more casual roles. Now that we've seen a little bit of what Discord can do, hopefully you can see how you can use it to create a synchronous online environment that stays functional offline and that can be a really powerful way to build community among your students. In the next video, we'll talk about how to use roles and permissions more powerfully and to configure your Discord server to best support your students as they learn.